Hello, everyone, and welcome to the last Snap Take of 2023. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone, and we've got an absolute massive amount to talk about. Just like always, we've got 3 new decks and all sorts of special features. But before we go any further, before we talk about those decks like we always do, there's something I need to do in advance. There's something we need to talk about. We are going to talk in this video about the issue CozySnap created a video. He talked about a deck. That deck was originally created and publicized by a different, much smaller creator, and controversy, as it often does, erupted. This is a subject, given this channel's contents, that is near and dear to my heart. I know I'm very likely to upset people, lose subs, both people that believe Cozy's totally in the right and people that believe that the people who are attacking Cozy are totally in the right. That's fine. This is my channel where I'm going to speak as honestly and candidly as I can about issues that matter. Many of you know I'm an English teacher in my real life. Issues like plagiarism and ethics and creation are all near and dear to my heart, to what I think about on a day-to-day basis in my non-Snap content creation life, and we're going to talk about that. If you're not interested in that and you want to skip that section, it's right after the first deck guide. I want to make sure I give you a deck guide first. It's right after the first deck guide, so please feel free to not watch if this is not a subject that you find as interesting as I do or as important as I do. No hard feelings. Also, you're welcome to disagree in the comments. This isn't something like race or gender or equality where I feel like a discourse is not healthy. If your discourse is just a dumb meme, please keep it to yourself. But I'm perfectly happy to have this discussion in the comments of this video. All right, we should not let that overshadow our 3 decks from 3 great creators. Reminder, we're giving away 15 season passes. We've got a KaptKerr deck. Blob doesn't move. That's the 69% win rate deck from the thumbnail. We've got Xunzzz, Black Knight Sarah. Xunzzz is the 14-year-old player who is now top 5 in the world. And we've got Amano, the player who came in second in Creator Clash to Lambie, has a Black Knight double up deck. So we're going to look at all 3 of those decks and plenty more. Please hit that sub button, ring that bell, leave a comment, like, do all those nice, kind things. We'd greatly appreciate it. It helps us grow. We're trying to get to 8,000 subs as soon as possible. We're at, I believe, about 7,600. So if you could help us get those extra subs, we'd super appreciate it. We're doing our best to provide you the best content every day. I said this is the last Snap Take of 2023. There will be one on the first day of 2024. We do 7 videos a week, 6 on this channel, and then the podcast on the Marvel Snap Zone YouTube. Don't miss out. In addition, we do the biggest giveaway in all of Marvel Snap every single season. This season, like always, we're giving away 15, but we're giving away a few more. We'll talk about that in a minute. We're giving away at least 15 Skaar Planet Hulk season passes. To enter here, you post on any video. Each video is its own small giveaway from last Wednesday's video until tomorrow, Monday, January 1st video. I will pull a winner from the comment section of each of those videos. As long as you're subbed, you've liked, you commented that video, you are entered to win. The tweet linked in the description to this video has 5 more chances to win, and there's going to be a special podcast giveaway. The Marvel Snap Zone giveaway isn't happening this month. There's going to be a special podcast specific giveaway that we'll talk about hopefully in the next episode of the podcast. If you are interested in that podcast, by the way, we had Lambie, Peaceful Sea, and Savage Yeti on to talk about the 10 best decks ever in Marvel Snap this week. It's on Marvel Snap Zone's YouTube as of right now, so check that out. We are also giving away a season pass exclusively on our Patreon already, and there will be another giveaway on that Patreon if you're interested. So patreon.com/snapjudgments. We don't do this every day. I promise we're trying to do this once a week. $1 tier is just showing some love. $5 tier, you get early access to videos. The second I'm done recording them, I put them up there. Content suggestions, I post polls about different things the content should do. Complete post archive coming soon. Podcast guest questions, deck doctors, and priority answers. For $10, you get a once-a-month exclusive podcast. This month, Roy and I, my co-host Roy, and I are reviewing every card released in 2023 in Marvel Snap. You'll have exclusive content, both written and in video. I've already posted exclusive content there several times in the first week of this Patreon's existence. An exclusive monthly giveaway, mailbag question and answers, end of daily video shoutouts, priority questions for podcasts, and all previous tiers. We also host a giveaway sheet, thanks to our friend Banshee. In the comments of this video, you will find a giveaway sheet. It's every active giveaway in Marvel Snap. If you would like to win a season pass, make sure you check that out. A bunch of people are doing giveaways right now. There's always the beginning of the season promotion. You can find some great creators there that you can follow and hopefully win some cool stuff. All right. This is our outline for the day. We're going to begin with questions of the day, but we got inundated with questions this weekend, so we're going to do double questions. So questions of the day, then KaptKerr's deck. KaptKerr is a great streamer and YouTuber. Check him out. Then we've got the Cozy on decks and deck credits. We've got the Xunzzz deck. You can find Xunzzz at Twitter. That's our 14-year-old top 5 player. Clearly a prodigy at this game. Then we've got more questions, including one big one. And then Amano's deck. Amano is, again, the player who came in second in the most recent Creative Clash. Fantastic player. Has another Black Knight deck. We end with a look at 2-day shop, both Friday and Saturday shops, and shoutouts. Havoc and Chaos asks, are certain locations more rare? And wonders about location changing cards a la Scarlet Witch. Yes, there is a rarity to locations. You can find all of them on Marvel Snap Zone. Marvel Snap Zone has like locations broken down by rarity tab. If you hit locations, they range from common, which things like Dream Dimension, to rare, which show up I want to say 10% less, right? Like they're 1 in every 100 and then 1 in every 1,000 games for rare, and then super rare locations is my understanding of it. So the rare would be something like Subterranea, and then the super rare locations are things like World Ship. So those exist, and yes, cards like Scarlet Witch take them into account. Justin Keller asks why Valkyrie isn't in the meta, and honestly, it's because she costs 5, and 5 is a very awkward cost slot. 5s are always hard to fit, and 5 is an extremely high power cost slot. We've seen Sarah reemerge into the meta. We've seen Legion reemerge into the meta, right? Sarah perhaps should mean that Valkyrie is in those decks, but Sarah and Valkyrie is really difficult to pull off because Sarah decks often don't have a ton of power early on in that game. So having to play Valkyrie on the last turn, then even if it's only for 4, is difficult. Valkyrie's rarity, I believe, is largely due to her cost slot, although she is still a very, very powerful card. Valkyrie is in my favorite deck in Marvel Snap ever. Lambie's Valhalla deck, the Thanos deck that ran the 2-cost Beast, and Valkyrie as a game ender. It's really, really strong. And it beats a lot of the meta right now, as in, like, it takes absolute care of Blob, and it wrecks all the sort of on-reveal stuff that's all over the place. However, it's really not good against ongoing decks, right? So the decks that I think are newest to the meta that are everywhere are the Blob Thanos, which has been out for a couple weeks. Valkyrie is great against that. Then there's the Hella Enjoyer ongoing list, and Valkyrie is terrible against that. And we also have the Sarah decks, which Valkyrie is okay against, but not as good as you'd like. So Valkyrie is very good, but not great right now, and her cost being awkward tends to keep her on the fringes of the meta. Dirty Hipster thinks everyone's forgotten about Doom, and thinks so because people are not playing around the card as much, and that's pocket meta stuff, because I don't think that's the case. Doom is still the most played 6-cost card in the game. What people do, though, when new 6 costs come out is they have to update their mental checklists, right? So you've updated our mental checklist from Doom used to be like the default turn 6 play. If you didn't know they were a specific deck, on turn 6 you knew they were going to play a 6, you have to play around Doom, right? And then it became Doom or Alioth for the 6-cost play, and people hated having to add that extra 6 cost to their mental checklist of things that happen. Well, now it's Doom, Alioth, and Blob that are the potential big 6-cost 6-drop plays, and you have to mentally update your checklist. Can I beat all 3 of these? How do I beat all 3 of these? Which are they most likely running? Where do I play if I want to be one versus the other? So as people are doing this, they often lose track of the oldest of those cards, which they feel is the least popular, even if it is in fact the most, and so Doom gets less play. Smatmit wants to know what the first Helene buff will be. So I think that the first Helene buff is very likely to be having her only hit opponents. So I think having her only hit opponents weakens her in some ways, but strengthens her in others, and it makes her less of a burden to play. It means that you have more free deck building choices. Like, I'd like to play her with Darkhawk, but I really can't play her in Darkhawk decks unless I'm like running all the goblins and Hood. So she requires me to go too all in for her to mitigate her downside to me right now, for her to see play. I fully expect the change to be for her to only affect opponents. The other possible change is for her to Spider Ham and for her to show what card in the opponent's hand she hits, which would actually be really useful and might make her see play too. The third possibility is that they leave her alone. They've always had a weak one drop in Series 5, or at least for the reasonable past. They had the completely useless Snow Guard in Series 5 for the longest time, and then when they dropped it to Series 4, they fixed it. They've had Howard in Series 5 for the longest time. Now they're series dropping Howard to 4. Celine will be the sort of booby prize of Series 5 for a while. If you'd like your questions read out in tomorrow's video, just leave one in the comments. Also worth noting, we're doing 3 more questions later this video. Our first deck of the day is a 69% win rate Blob move from KaptKerr. This deck is really, really good. I'm into Blob move as a concept. We had Ava trying stuff with this out last week. We've seen a lot of similar things. This is, I think, my favorite version of it. No offense to anyone else who posted one. I think the reason I like it is I really still think the only place Elsa's really good is move. I want to see her giving +3 power again, because if she's only going to affect one lane, I think that's an appropriate buff at this point. But I think that this is really good, right? Like a 3/5 Jeff, a 5/10 Vision, a 5/11 Arrow potentially are all extremely powerful cards and things that you would like to do, like to accomplish. So I think Elsa is a very good fit here. I think Echo gives you play into the meta. Without Echo, Shang-Chi has to be Enchantress in this deck. Sorry. And yeah, Blob is just a closer, right? Like a lot of these cards get really big. Silk is one of the biggest twos. Craven becomes one of the biggest twos. Elsa allows you to create big stuff along the line. Vision is a really big 5. Spider-Man as a 1/5 is great. A 3/5, sorry, Miles as a 1/5 is great. 3/5 Spider-Man. Nebula grows really big. That's a lot of power in this deck, right? Because you have so much power, you should be able to win one lane just because like you're putting so much stuff down that has a lot of power. At that point, Blob takes you right over the top. Okay, so Echo can be Enchantress, but then you're going to need Zabu, and this becomes a totally different list. You can also, if you don't have Echo, replace it with something like Nightcrawler and change Shang-Chi to Enchantress. You're kind of okay with that. Elsa, check last Wednesday's video, the first day of the giveaway. Ava Zord, top, like, generally one of the best players in the game, has a version lacking Elsa. Jeff or Silk can be Cloak, but you need Jeff or Silk. You can't not have both. Blob is easily the best top end here. You can try with Goliath or Magneto, but you're going to lose more games to Snap. Sorry. There was a point where people in this style of deck tried to run Luke Cage and Man-Thing as a top end. So if you're missing Elsa and Blob, I don't hate going back to Luke Cage and Man-Thing. This won 69% of games, I don't know how to type, in 36 games, which is really, really, really high. This is a small sample, but we've been seeing lots of decks like this maintain a similar win rate and a similar sample size. So I think this is just a really powerful and really underexplored archetype. Playing against move requires a particular skill set, and it requires a lot of practice. And because people aren't playing a lot against it right now, I think that's making it even better. So Nebula or Echo mid first, then Craven or Elsa. Turn 3, Spidey or one of the 2s and a 1. Turn 4, if you played Spidey, Miles and a 2. If not, you drop 2 2s. Turn 5, you can also, drop Echo mid and Peter Parker Spider-Man on turn 4. Turn 5, Vision mid or 2 2s and Miles. And turn 6 is Blob or Shang. Enjoy. Snapping is hard here. You need to snap basically when you're looking very ahead in 2 lanes on turn 4 or 5, because then Blob is going to like close out and win you that game. Cool. All right. I just wanted to post this. This was me playing against a very similar deck. This one ran Professor X, obviously. This is, I think Blob's getting nerfed. I think we're about to see the turn in opinion on Blob that leads to this card getting that hit. And I fundamentally believe that because of this type of game. So in this game, I went Forge into Killmonger, and I had a full location of Broodlings, and I hit Surfer. So I needed like 7 things to go right to get this 37 power, whereas Blob just drops and immediately alone fundamentally hits 33. I think that kind of thing kind of breaks the game. Like, it changes the power scaling of the game, because usually to get that much power, like, even if it's Shuri Red Skull when that was 30 power, even if it's Shuri Red Skull, that's a 2-card combo that you need to draw in the right order, play in the right order. For Blob to hit these sort of insane numbers, all you have to do is play Blob. You see the problem, right? Like, if play Blob is the only thing you need to do, then sooner or later public opinion is going to turn on this card. It's going to get either a power cap or it gets half the power of everything it eats. Wait for it. All right. One last look at the deck. We've got variants. For whatever reason, my Peach Momoko Echo won't show, but in the real deck, she is chilling with my Peach Momoko Shang-Chi. They're buddies. We've got a Hip Nebula, a Hip Elsa, Hip Jeff, Hip Spider-Man, Hip Vision, Hip Blob. We're at 6 hips, a very good number. Perfectly happy. I like this arrow a lot. Got it from some bundle. Big fan. I have Miles swinging away. This is my favorite Miles. It's the one that to me feels the most like the character. Raven is chilling with Venomized Silk. If I run one Venomized, I run both Venomized, so that they are together. And that's this deck's visuals. And now, time to talk about Cozy and deck credit. So, let's do this. Over the weekend, a deck credit controversy erupted on Twitter with Snap's biggest creator, CozySnap. You don't know who Cozy is, like a lot of my viewers watch Cozy. Cozy is like 125,000 subscribers. We're at like 7.5. Cozy is the big dog in terms of YouTube, one of the biggest Twitch streamers, genuinely makes amazing and high-produced content. Seems like a nice person. I don't know him, but seems nice. So let's summarize what actually happened. So last week on Wednesday or so, we posted this Combat Miracle. The same day I posted this Combat Miracle, I was choosing between this deck and this deck. This Revis deck is super high win rate, so is this combat deck. I honestly kind of just picked fairly at random for which one I was going to talk about first. I don't know which one came first. I believe the Revis came first. They are ridiculously similar decks. See the 2 cards different? Jeff for Lizard, Legion for Doom. Everything else is the same. So we covered the combat deck, and I know I'm going to cover that Revis deck later, and I'm just going to put them together. In fact, that Revis deck was supposed to be the lead deck today. I figured there's a chance I lose out on hitting that deck if I wait, but I covered the combat deck, so like I feel like I've done my job either way. We're close enough to like the same deck that like everyone who watches the channel understands that this is a powerful archetype and they can make adjustments as they see fit as games get played. Cool. Revis is a really good creator. Combat's a friend of mine. No problem, no harm, no foul. Well, yesterday, Cozy posted this. The 70% win rate Sever Control is the runaway #1 conquest this season. I'm usually on to the next video, but I have to say I'm proud of this one. And we're assuming this one is the video, right? We're going to read with generosity and assume this one is not the deck. So he adds a whole bunch of things to the decks, and then he posts the deck. And everyone who looks at it goes, that's Revis's deck, like card for card. Revis has been playing this for about a week and a half now. On stream, he's been tweeting about it. This has been a thing in the community. Cool. Okay, so everyone starts saying, hey, Cozy, like, that's Revis's deck, that's Revis's deck. I tweeted, this is a really great deck, this is really great content, but that's Revis's deck. This is like a well-known thing that Revis created this deck. Revis is not tiny, but he's also not, like, invisible. He's not hard to find. So Cozy gets yelled at a whole bunch about this, and eventually replies to a tweet that says that he does this all the time about TLSG. So I can't speak for TLSG, but I'm far too busy with aspects of my personal life and the enjoyment of creating content to even know 1% of what this is supposed to imply. It's hilarious I even have to spend time typing this out. Nearly a week ago, I tweeted about Mobius being slept on after building a nearly identical deck to this one. I polished it off with a swap of 1 card after being beaten in the mirror match on ladder, excluding Jeff. Which means, I guess, 2 cards. Regardless of all that, the original tweet referenced being proud of the video, not the deck. As for Revis, I had the pleasure of following him today after some polite tags on this thread and saw his past tweets and reached out right away asking for his socials to plug in both the description and the comments of the video to show support. Regardless of the point. Regardless of the point, I've often done what I can to support smaller creators in more ways than one. Cheers. Since I'm enjoying my vacation, Revis replies, since I'm enjoying my vacation, I'm going to try not to delve into this discussion more than this. A Cozy gamer reached out to me yesterday and offered to link my socials with his Sarah video. It's something I didn't expect and obviously greatly appreciated. The conversation has continued because it's Twitter and If you're not aware, Twitter is a cesspool, but I think there are actual important things to discuss here. So, first, there's an implication. Cozy in his videos, many creators in their videos don't do deck credits. I've had a million conversations about this. You've watched to this point in this video, even if you've never been here before. We do deck credits in every video. We link to the person's socials in every video. That'll tell you enough to start where I stand on deck credits, right? However, there's an implication that Cozy has done this before. In fact, the video the day before, he posted the Hella Enjoyer ongoing list that we talked about a week and a half ago here, as like this amazing Onslaught ongoing deck. Again, not mentioning Hella Enjoyer, again getting called out, this time on a smaller scale. KM also interviewed Hella Enjoyer when he covered that deck. Again, not adding credit to the description to the video, not the video itself, which is seen by exponentially less people, to the description of the video after the fact. So that's the beginning of a pattern. Meanwhile, other creators have noted to me multiple times that this has happened to them. That they feel like different ideas, concepts, things they found were taken, tweeted, created by Cozy without giving proper credit. I'm not telling their story. I'm going to tell you 3 different creators have reached out to me about this. It is not my story to tell. They're all of varying degrees of blame toward Cozy for this. Now, I'm going to tell you straight up right away. I probably don't think that Cozy is like actively trying to harm people. I don't think he's stealing things. I don't think he's trying to like get credit for work he didn't do. Cool. That's my first take. All good? Now, content creation is complicated. If you look at my thumbnail to this very video, it is clickbait. All good? Almost all content creators, at least until they reach a certain size, do this because otherwise people don't click and the YouTube algorithm refuses to show your video to anybody. It's super frustrating. One of the first things I did when I started trying to grow this channel was I went and looked at top creators' thumbnails and I studied them. I have a whole note sheet that has different styles of thumbnails until I could develop my own. Now I have the same basic style in every thumbnail. You've seen it today. It'll be the same thing. 1 big picture, 2 little pictures, words. The algorithm has accepted it. It's fine. Plagiarism is complicated. People make certain styles of videos, and other people try and copy that style of video. Ownership in this case, ownership of ideas is not clear. There's nothing to directly be mad at. But hey, small creators and big creators should probably do their best to give credit where credit is due for that. I think my thumbnails are an amalgamation of a lot of people, but if I had to say that they're closest to one, there was one era, like 3 videos of TLSG that I liked, and so that my thumbnails sort of look like that. Cool. Like, I think that's a good thing to acknowledge. Is it a requirement? No, I don't think so, unless you're using the same words, the same pictures, the same everything, right? Mimicking a style isn't plagiarism. Doing a children's story set in a magical world, right after where kids are at a magical school, right after Harry Potter released, wasn't plagiarism. It was a takeoff of another idea. It might be derivative, but it's not plagiarism. All good? Derivativeness and straight up copying people's content are not the same thing. If you release an idea and someone takes your exact words, I think that's wrong. Well, straight up, I think that's wrong. That's not the case here. I don't think Cozy was trying to do that. And I don't think it's fair to Cozy to assume that he was being malicious, regardless of what has happened. Although I would ask him to do better in this. I think what's likely to happen is he builds some sort of idea, and then he runs things through things like Untapped and the Auto Deck Builder. And at that point, it takes a lot of time to figure out who made the damn deck, right? I don't think that Cozy necessarily takes the time to find that out. I don't think he takes the time to figure out who made it. Now, I'm going to tell you, I do this every day. Literally every freaking day. I find decks, I figure out who made decks, I keep track of Untapped, I keep track of the Snap Zone deck builder, and then I have to like go and retrofit who actually created the damn thing. This happens constantly. Untapped doesn't tell you who the first creator of the deck was, it just gives you the deck list. That's dangerous, right? That means that if I want to go find a deck, I can just go onto Untapped, type in whatever filters I want, and I do this, and then just pull a deck. But a human being made that deck. Even the auto deck builder, if I put in a card in auto deck build, that's pulling decks made by human beings. A lot of those human beings are small content creators who are trying to grow and trying to make work. I do this again every day, so I know how hard it is and I know how much it takes. I would ask, and I can't demand this, I would ask content creators like Cozy, and Cozy's not the only one, he's just the one we're talking about right now, to where possible, try and find out. And if you don't know, just don't present it blankly. Say that I got this on Untapped, I got this from XYZ, I brewed some of this, and then this is what happened. Tell that story. It's worth it. Also, like, my circle of creator friends is obviously exponentially smaller than Cozy's, and I'm able to find it, so I believe he should be able to too, with likely less effort than it takes me. All right. My big issue here, this is the one that actually bothers me, is Cozy, by not saying anything, lets his viewers constantly think that he's brewing all these decks. Revis created that last deck. Hell Enjoyer created the deck before. And maybe he's being completely truthful and he was really close on the Revis deck. And that Hell Enjoyer deck, we'll talk about this later, is really close to a safety deck. It's an evolution of a safety blade deck. So, like, this isn't black and white, right? But by not saying anything about where things come from, you are taking credit. There's no, like, other way to say that, right? You're lying by omission. And I think that's Cozy's big sin here, or at least to me, that's what actually bothers me. It's that by constantly not presenting where your ideas come from, even if you are generally a brewer, and I'm telling you, a lot of people in the community have complained about this privately. By not giving credit, by not saying that I got this from somewhere else, even if you don't know where else that is, you are leading to this idea that you're some genius deck builder, genius brewer. And maybe you are in a lot of circumstances, but you're not in these other ones. And building that credibility off the backs of other people's work, to me, is completely wrong. I am calling on the community to just say where the hell you get your decks from. I don't think it's too much to ask. Even if you just get them from Untapped and don't want to look any harder, fine, but say that. Be honest. Don't lie by not saying things. Don't let people believe things by not saying things. All that to say, I don't think Cozy's a monster. I think people treating Cozy like he's some piece of garbage for this are completely off base. This has never been an issue before. This is an issue being raised publicly and largely for the first time. And I think it warrants a conversation like the one I'm trying to have right now. I wanted to do this on Twitter or another platform, but there's just not enough space. And I reached out to Cozy and I haven't heard back. So this is the way we're going to do it. Don't attack him. So I'm literally in the middle of a unit on witch hunts throughout history in my classes. I would have liked to have finished it before Christmas break, but what are you going to do? This is becoming a witch hunt where, like, he's a monster for everything he does, and he's fake, and he's this, and he's that, and that's nonsense. The dude did something that was raised as an issue once. He has the opportunity to correct it. Let's have a discussion about it. Let's see if this can be fixed. Let's see if he's willing to fix it. Let's see if he even agrees that there is an issue. If the answer to any of that is, like, no, if he says no, I'm doubling down, I'm just taking decks from anywhere I want, and I'm never going to credit anybody, that's obnoxious. And then we'll have a later discussion, right? But hey, this is being raised for the first time. Let's have a conversation. Let's say the community as a whole, if the community as a whole agrees on this, and I'm not sure they do, believes that where possible, saying whether you made the deck or not would be beneficial. Cool. All right. I've seen complaints about simultaneous creation. It's only 12 cards, and I want to talk about the Ship of Theseus in a minute. But simultaneous creation is absolutely possible. Simultaneous creation happens all the time in this game because a lot of what we're doing is we're taking general card packages and jamming them together. I talked about this on the podcast with Lambie yesterday, where I explained my theory of card evaluation, why we got Loki wrong, and why I was able to get cards like Legion right where others weren't. is that a card that creates a new archetype is inherently hard to evaluate. Ideas and new archetypes are inherently hard to come up with because it is fundamentally impossible until you play them to know if they're actually good. However, Annihilus plus Sentry is 27 power. 27 power on turn 4 and 5 is a lot. That's guaranteed a package, so I stuck that with Darkhawk. I knew it would be good. There was no question. That is or Legion was the best deck was the Darkhawk deck, right? And you're like, okay, well, if I've got 1/5 and I've got room for a second 5 and I'm running junk in there in that second 5 spot, Legion or Legion and Silky or Legion whatever is going to take that deck that's otherwise good and raise its level, meaning it's going to be great in that card. Good? That kind of creation probably doesn't deserve a million tons of credit. However, I'm obsessive about decks. Cool. I'm completely wildly obsessive about decks. Anyone who's followed this channel knows that I grind. I do the work to make sure I know about all the decks. There's 3 cards in this deck that are not traditionally in Serraless. One of them is almost certainly wrong. Bluntly, wrong in the card game term, not wrong in the ethical term. So Lizard versus Jeff in this deck is extremely complicated, right? He ended up on Lizard, not Jeff. That suggests to me that it came from elsewhere. Cool. Also, I have so many decks. Sarah had disappeared before last week when Revis and then Combat started talking about their decks. Had disappeared. Phil Woodard also had a Hitmonkey version, which is different enough, right? It's the same concept, but it's got Hitmonkey and it's got the Hitmonkey package in it, which is where Sarah was before literally Revis' deck. Even before that, I struggle to find a time when it was ever meta to put Legion into a Sarah deck. It is possible, however, extraordinarily unlikely that Legion was in this deck without this being found elsewhere, which supports the idea of the Hella Enjoyer deck and the numerous other decks that have become popular on things like Untapped that then Cozy did a video about, but then his video didn't actually say anyone else's name or that he got them from Untapped, and then they became Cozy decks and they started being played all over the meta. Good. Is it possible that he came up with the exact same 12 cards? Sure, but he also notes in his comment that he lost a mirror match, which means he knew that other people were playing this. He says he changed one card. Whether that is true or not, I don't actually care. But he says he changed one card, which means this deck is out there. He knows the stats aren't that he's seeing on things like Untapped, because he has a win rate here, right? Aren't just from his own playing, which means this exists elsewhere. And if it exists elsewhere, someone else also created it at the very least, right? Spend the time to look, see what happened. Then there's the it's only 12 cards. This drives me a little bit crazy. I follow the best deck builders in the game. Period, bar none. If you follow this channel, you know for a fact that I know everyone who's anyone who's a deck builder in this game. It's only 12 cards is bullshit. It's so goddamn hard to make a top-notch deck in this game. Everyone who does is famous for it. That W has done so 3 times, puts him at the top of the game in terms of deck builders. 4 times. Puts him at the top of the game in terms of deck builders. It is fundamentally unheard of to figure out new decks of 12 cards. And then we run into the Ship of Theseus problem. I'm not going to explain the whole Ship of Theseus, but the question is often, how much of the deck do you need to replace for it to be a different deck? That's a complicated and loaded question. Sometimes you're just throwing Shang-Chi in. Congrats, it's probably not a new deck. Sometimes you're replacing, as our friend Lauren Woodevs recently did, Professor X, and then several other cards to support that, with Arrow. Right? You're now replacing Professor X with Arrow in the deck that's running Storm, and you're using Arrow as a way to mess with Storm and not just a tech lockdown piece. Whereas Professor X before would be a lockdown on 5, and the deck then plays very differently. That's not the same deck. Sorry, it's just not. It's a similar deck. It's based on and should be credited as based on a previous deck, but now it's a new deck with a 1-card shift. Other examples of this would be there are Ronin decks that ended up with a few extra 3s and started slotting in Surfer and an extra 3. They don't exist anymore, but that deck existed for quite a while. Ask our friend Counter Guy. It's a different deck now. They're it's obviously going to be a judgment call. But you know what doesn't matter? whether it's the same deck or not. If you got the idea from somebody, you can say, hey, this is a modified idea from. I literally will do it. I guess I didn't do it. I did it in my head already because I review my slides. But I'm going to do it in the next video. I'm going to say, hey, this deck is similar to another take by person X that created something similar a few days ago. They're probably... Are they created in isolation? Who knows? Who cares? How much effort does it say? The next deck is by Xunzzz. Xunzz's deck is fairly similar to Desmond's deck. So when I talk about it, I'm going to say Xunzz's deck is similar to Desmond's deck. One is perhaps derived from the other. That takes no effort. It takes no time. It's just showing kindness. Does size matter as far as creators? Yes. Fundamentally, yes. When you climb to the top, you can do one of two things. You can leave the ladder there and try and help other people up it, or you can pull the ladder up behind you. Cozy is currently at the top of the ladder. I think it's completely reasonable, and this is a political statement, as political as this video is going to get. I think it's completely reasonable for those at the top of the ladder to be asked to help others up that ladder instead of pulling that ladder up behind them so others can't climb. Cozy should do more for that. That is my ethical belief. He can disagree. He can choose not to. He can say he does not. And he raids smaller creators all the time, so he definitely does at least something. I'm not saying he does nothing. I'm not saying he's a monster. I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm saying I think it's fair to hold him to a standard. Because let me tell you this. I watched that Revis video, and I don't honestly... Sorry, I watched that Combat video. And Combat doesn't credit Revis, and I don't know who made it first. And honestly... I'm not sure I care, right? Like, as long as they're both, like, of similar size, they're both trying to grow and trying to create something. Neither is, like, trying to edge each other out. It's when someone bigger does it, because, like, now, whenever that deck is talked about for all of eternity, if this stink didn't happen, it would be the Cozy deck. The Hell Enjoyer deck would be the Cozy ongoing deck. My favorite comments I get, and I get these every day, are people go something like, oh, I hit Infinite with that Ava deck. Oh, I hit Infinite with that Ika deck. Oh my god, I got an Infinity border with KM Blobnose. Great. I want you to credit the person who did the work. Most of you know this. I'm a union person through and through. I'm a union VP in my real life. I care a lot about workers and workers' rights. When we're on the same team, we're on the same page, great. But when you're above, you can take credit for what everyone else does just through sheer size. And I think it does matter when you're the biggest that you go out of your way extra to make sure that everybody eats. It's not about getting a bigger piece of the pie. It's about making a bigger pie. All right, I've seen the idea that because Cozy made it, it's ultimately good for the game and only certain creators matter. The Cozys, the Cams, the Dexters. And no. Just no. Like, that's the worst take in the world. Like, okay, you've seen Leech in decks lately, right? Like, we've all seen Leech. Leech wasn't in the meta 2 weeks ago. Straight up was not in the meta. Ika put Leech in a deck. I happened to see that deck being played by Devilish. I messaged Den, Leech meta. Den starts playing it. Ika's getting great stats, so the early stats look amazing. Devilish is getting great stats. So that's 2 people creating this, but it's still small, right? Like, this idea has not spread. It's a thing you will see once in a while. Den puts it in a Marvel Snap Zone article. It's now huge, right? Without Ika, would that happen? Maybe, maybe not. But it happened because of Ika. The small creators, the people that do the work, I have a list of about 17 creators that when I'm looking for a deck, I go check before anyone. And then I'll check things like Snap Decks and Untapped, and I'll do like some retrofitting. And people tag me all the time and so on and so forth. Yeah? I always look through everything possible to try and find this out. But those people make the game happen. They make the meta diverse. They make it so that this game is fun and we're all not just playing the same 3 decks. We're all not still going ongoing. There was a point where, I mean, the original Doom Wave that W came up with, that didn't exist without W. The, putting a move package and Black Bolt stature in a Darkhawk shell with Safety Blade. Like, people create things. And, like, sometimes they're creating things by mashing together a bunch of ideas. Sometimes they're creating things built on others. Doomwave, which W deserves full credit for, probably doesn't exist without Deathwave, which is one of KM's big innovations. Right? We all stand on each other's shoulders and build, but none of this exists without the people who are doing the work, the small creators doing that work. And that's not to say that big creators don't do work and don't create things. But I can tell you fundamentally where every meta deck came from. And I'm not saying it's never big creators, but like the meta does not tend to shift first on the backs of them. I'm gonna do my favorite little reference to the Devil Wears Prada again, where Anne Hathaway's character is going, I don't care about fashion, whatever. And Meryl Streep's character looks at her and goes, you're wearing that color, which we put in this catalog on that year. And eventually it trickles down to you. So that works for workers too. People succeed, the game succeeds on the back of the smaller creators who are putting in work to try and make the game interesting, to try and find something. And one of the big ways that you can break your name and become fairly big is what W did and make a meta deck. But if everyone is calling that the cozy deck, then you just lost your shot, even though you made the damn thing. Okay. So the other thing that Cozy did that actually bothers me is saying he's far too busy with the joy of creation and his family, his personal life, to know what's happening or to know what's 1% of what's going on. I'm gonna say this as nicely as possible. I'm a teacher. I'm a union VP. I have a kid. Do a video a day. I constantly help everyone I can. I understand from busy. You can't be too busy to be a good person. You can't be too busy to care about people. You can't be too busy to help. You can't. You're not like you're allowed, I guess, but like that's when I start placing judgments on you as a person. Care enough to pay attention, be aware, and you don't have to know everything. So all of this begs the question of what we want from our content creators, and that's a decision that you will all make individually. What do you want from your content creators? Do you want people who pay attention to the community or people who just drop something from on high? Do you care if it's on high? Do you feel connected to them? What level of production do you want? What level of credit do you want? What level of communication do you want? All of these are real questions that you should probably cognizantly have an answer, cognizantly make a decision about for what you want from content. This video is fundamentally what I want from content. I make the kind of content I want as best I can. But I'd also like to say, because people are like, but what happens if you get it wrong? I don't think anyone's asking for perfection. I've gotten deck credits wrong. And you know what I do when I get a deck credit wrong? I say, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Recently, a Ronin deck from our friend Gaming with Flash. How you doing? I know he's watching. A Ronin deck that I credited him for, he got from Ramek, who got from Owie. Owie reached out and was like, hey, that's mine. So I issued a correction. I said, hey, I'm really sorry, but this was actually Owie's deck first, and it just sort of got spread out, and I lost the thread. And that was the end of it. No one's expecting perfection. Try. Try to do the right thing. Try to be a good person. That's it. That's the end of my take on this. Try to do the right thing. Try to be a good person. If you don't care about any of this, hopefully you skipped because this was a long segment. This is what I wrote to Cozy at the end of it. So I mean no disrespect, but you're the biggest creator doing this. The attempt to credit, whether here or the Hell Android deck, isn't a requirement, but it means a whole lot to people working extremely hard who are also far too busy with aspects of their personal life. You'd like us to respect your hard work and dedication, so smaller creators would, at least from the replies and conversations I've been having, greatly appreciate the same consideration where possible. That's it. Do the right thing. Care about people. Not Cozy. Everyone. Do the right thing. Care about people. Treat people with respect. Be kind. Help others. Lift each other up. Our second deck, an hour later, is Xunzz's top 5 over 10,000. This is, if you watched the last segment, you know this, fairly similar to the Desmond deck. It's running Gladiator and Sarah, basically, instead of Leech. It's really cool. It's really, really cool. I actually kind of love this deck. I'm sad to not have Leech, and that makes the Blob math really hard, but you do have Shang to help answer a Blob if you can throw priority, and this deck is decent at throwing priority. The basic idea is if you get Zabu and Sarah out, you can have a last turn of Ghost Rider Shang Shard or Ghost Rider Ms. Marvel Shard, and you are just putting up so much power. And if you have to play one of those on turn 4, Gladiator will also cost 2 on the last turn, and you can drop that. There's a lot to like here. Um, it also has the wonderful last turn of, if necessary, Lady Sif and Ghost Rider, which I love, right? Like if you're like, I don't have time to get this off, if you've Serad, and I mean, if you've just Serad, you can do Lady Sif and Ghost Rider. If you've got Sarah and Zabu, your Ghost Rider costs 2. You can Blade Ghost Rider, that's 3, and still play another 2. You can still get down your Shang or Ms. Marvel. It's just a very, very, very good deck. So for an alt deck, don't forget Thursday's Leech Knight by Desmond, Black Knight is a must, Enchantress or Skrull for Ms. Marvel, Polaris or Medusa for Gladiator. Oh, thing I like about Polaris, and everyone keeps telling me I don't know if about Polaris in this meta, is that Ms. Marvel is the most common card. She's the second best card in the game because it's still probably Loki is the best. It's between the two. Um, use Polaris to screw up opponent Ms. Marvels, please. Don't just drop her on 3 without thinking. She can ruin an opponent's Ms. Marvel and win you the game. Thank you. So he's a prodigy. Xunzzz is a prodigy. 14 years old, number 5 on ladder globally is unbelievable. Turn 1 is Black Knight. Turn 2 is Zabu. Generally Snap if you have Zabu. And then Jeff. Turn 3, Sif if you have a good target. If not, you're playing Jeff or Black Knight or Zabu. Turn 4 is Marvel or Gladiator. Turn 5, Sarah if you can. If not, Shard is fine. Turn 6, 2 to 3 Game Swingers. Options include Ghost Rider plus Shard plus Shang, or plus Gladiator or Ms. Marvel. And just, it's a miracle deck. This is like miracle power. It's awesome. Quick variant look for this one. We've got my brand new, completely beautiful Black Knight from the Spotlight Caches, Blade hip, Zabu hip, Jeff hip, Sif hip, Gladiator hip, Ms. Marvel hip, Sarah hip, Magneto hip, and Infinite hip. 9 hips. And then we've got a Jacinto for both Ghost Rider and Shang-Chi. Love this deck. Really a big fan of this one. All right, questions number 2. Venom wants to know what deck or card I'm really excited for next month. Grandmaster is going to be busted. I'm completely convinced. I hope it works with something like Hitmonkey, but I don't know. Grandmaster is data mined as a 2/0, shove a card to the middle location, and it's on reveal triggers again. Beautiful. I'm very excited for this card. I want it to work with Hitmonkey. I'm worried it works best, as our friend Quinny pointed out, by going Wave on 5, and then playing Alioth and Grandmaster, and saying Alioth in the left or right lane, and then Alioth in the center lane on the last turn of the game. That seems gross. Zushi wants to know any favorite locations or any I hate. I hate Weird World and District X. I just don't think they're fun. Weird World especially annoys me. But there's nothing I really love. I like the locations a fair amount. I don't like those two. Oh, I guess I don't like World Ship either. I don't like the super rare ones. Like the ones that are stupid and ruin the game aren't fun to me. So Jeff Senecal wants to know this big question. This is why we did 2 questions today, because I want to talk about this. How do I feel about Second Dinner releasing cards strong like Werewolf, Mobius, and Alioth, only to be immediately nerfed? Marvel is 100% next now that her season is over. I think I agree. By doing it this way, Second Dinner effectively makes you buy the new cards, all of them, and then they get nerfed and sometimes totally changes the cards, sometimes making them unplayable. And the examples are Mobius and Elsa. This is not okay with such an expensive game. That's getting more expensive as someone who that's getting more expensive. As someone who tells the community what to spend their money on, I make recommendations whether I think something is worth it or not. It's a difference. I hope that is clear to people. What are your thoughts on this, and how can it be fixed, if not fixed, mitigated? So, Second Dinner used to be really great at nerfing things to a point where they were still very good. The card they most messed up with lately is Elsa, in my opinion. And Loki is a mess up for a different reason, because they refused to touch that card for some reason. But Elsa is the big mistake, because they took Elsa from the best card in the game, probably one of the 3 to 4 best cards ever to basically unplayable, and that's terrible. Mobius is actually still really good. It just took a month for us to find one. Mobius is a meta card again. Congrats. I hope you enjoyed your free cost reduction times. It's gone. Mobius is great. I think they need to be more careful with nerfs. I think Werewolf might need another buff depending on whether Black Swan comes out in February or not. I think Elsa definitely needs another buff almost no matter what. They have gone too far in this direction. I don't know what to tell you about how to have them fix this. Most of the issues lately, outside of Ms. Marvel, like they messed up Loki season and they messed up Elsa. Most of the issues after that were them buffing cards, right? They buffed Martyr, they buffed Gladiator, they're gonna have to buff Selene, Havoc is fine, and they're gonna have to nerf Blob and Ms. Marvel. So, like, I don't know, this is not a good hit rate. But, like, as long as they're not destroying these cards and they're still good and playable and worth it, I don't mind that they release them strong because they want to shake up the meta. They want a dynamic meta. That said, when they nerf them to make them unplayable, I have a problem. I have a complaint. I think it's obnoxious. I think Elsa was nerfed specifically because of Blob. You'll never convince me otherwise, because Elsa's last good home after her last nerf was Thanos, and they didn't want Thanos 6 to be too good with both Elsa and Blob. So they took out Elsa, and I think it's a huge mistake. I think they should nerf Blob and revert Elsa to being powerful. I don't think they should kill Blob. I think they should, again, cap Blob's power or make it like half of what he eats or something along those lines. Or just make him a 6-0 and say, you better high roll. I guess that's fine. I don't like that change. I like the other two better. But how do you get them to stop? I don't know. We could boycott the game or something, but like, it's not really going to happen, right? I don't know. I think that the real answer is they keep releasing things powerful, less overpowered. Like, I think Blob is an acceptable level of overpowered. He needs to be brought in, but not like a massive amount. You still release things powerful a la Blob, not a la Ms. Marvel, Elsa, and Loki. And then you bring them down a little bit without breaking them, is how I would suggest they do it. It's what I would like to see. I'm curious what you guys think in the comments to this. Great. This is Amano's Black Knight. This deck is also really cool. This one, instead of going the Sarah route, says I'm going to play Magic and I'm going to drop stuff everywhere. In the last day, with the rise of Legion, because I don't know, maybe someone made a video with Legion in a deck, this has become way more dangerous. However, if you are not yet facing the all Legion all the time meta, this is super duper powerful. Its basic gist is it gets a nice shard out by turn 4 or 5, and then it can skip 6 and then drop like She-Hulk drop like a She-Hulk with Magneto or Infinite. It's great. Super powerful. So your like dream world is you sift away an Infinite on 3, and then you play Armor on 2, you sift away Blade on 1, Armor on 2. You sift away an Infinite on 3. You play the Shard on 4, just unprotected. You Ghost. No, I guess you don't have time now to Magic. So you Magic on 5, and then you skip 6, and you Ghost Rider and She-Hulk on 7. You can also just Ghost Rider on 6, and then just drop Magneto on 7 and be totally fine. All right. Black Knight is a must, and Ms. Marvel can be replaced like last deck. Consider Leech to protect Limbo. Jeff can be like any good card. I'm partial to Medusa. Amano was the number 2 in Conqueror's event, and worth noting, he is a Japanese player, but he has English subtitles put into his videos if you click the subtitle thing, so check him out. Turn 1, Black Knight over Sunspot. Turn 2, Arm over Jeff. Turn 3, Magic or Sif. It's a complete toss-up witch. Try and read your opponent, figure out if they have a way to blow up Limbo. Turn 4, Sif or Magic, or Ms. Marvel or Shard. Turn 5 is the same as turn 4. Turn 6 is Pass. Turn 7 is She-Hulk and Infinite, or She-Hulk and Shard, or She-Hulk and Ghost Rider. That's the deck. Worth noting, if you don't have She-Hulk, there's not a real reason to Magic and do the extra thing. If you can go Shard on 4, right? You can go Shard on 4 or 5, and then you can go Ghost Rider, Magneto. You're perfectly fine. So you go Sif, Shard, Ghost Rider, Magneto. Still plenty of power to win most games of Snap. Quick variant talk. Sunspot Blade. Jeff. I have the Infinite, but I did a different one. I have the Magneto, but I did a different one. I have them as Marvel, but I did a different one. Sif. 7 hips. Love to see it. I threw my Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider in this one. We've got the, I believe this is a Jacinto. Might be a Momoko. Ms. Marvel. My favorite armor in the game. My lovely, beautiful Black Knight. I threw in the Kitty Magic, because why the hell not? We've got White Magneto, this very cool Infinite, and my gold Peach Momoko She-Hulk. My shop yesterday was not good for me. I look at this White Queen every time it comes up and consider it, but I have 3 White Queens I like a lot. You can see them going diagonally. I have the Summer Vacation one, which I actually don't like. I randomly got the Noir one from somewhere or another that I think is great, and I have the Peach Momoko, which is the one I run. I also really like I don't like Art Germ art, but I like Art Germ Ghost Spider. So I already have a Venomized Ghost Spider though, so like I don't need a second. I'm perfectly happy with this one, and I have the Peach Momoko Ghost Spider, which I think is phenomenal, and the one I generally run. I don't like this Punisher. I have 2 other Punishers. I have the Momoko and the one that we got as a from the $5 bundle at some point of old like season pass cards. I have both the Jacinto and the Hip for Carnage. I have It's a really great surfer, just for the record. This surfer was very close to being bought. But I have the really cool one where he's like surfing sideways in black and white. I have the Hip and I have the Jacinto, so I'm good on my surfers for now. I have Hip for Lockjaw, I have Hip for Wong, and I have both Cozy Winter Rogue, and along with the Cozy Winter Rogue, I have the Jim Lee, which I just opened. So I'm good on Rogues for now. And I said I'm good on Rogues for now. I wish this game would leave me alone. But today is a day of celebration. Anyone who made it this far, anyone who's watched these videos, knows I have been looking for that hip stature for literally like 3 months. It is now 2 cards in all of Marvel Snap I need variants for. I need a White Tiger, and technically it's only 1 because I have the Pixel, but I want the hip for Rescue. And then I will have a variant for every card in Marvel Snap. We are so close at the end of 2023 to that journey being complete. Thank you, Marvel Snap. Snapped up this Psylocke and this stature so damn fast. All right. I don't buy pixels. I'm not buying that hazmat. I've got Midnight Suns for Nova. I've got we talked about Rogue 2 seconds ago. I've got Midnight Suns for Jean, although that Jean is gorgeous. I've got the Peach Momoko She-Hulk that I spent a lot of money on, so I'm using that. And I've got both the Steampunk and the Ghost Rider Quinjets, so I don't need the blueprint, but the blueprint is very, very cool. In the process, I opened this Squirrel Girl. I was upgrading my new hips to gold because I keep all my borders on gold, and I got this new Squirrel Girl. You can see it at the top left. It's nice. But I already have the round one, golden, so I'm keeping that one just fine. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching this incredibly long video. I greatly appreciate all of your support. As always, hit that sub button, ring that bell, check out that Patreon. I think you'll be surprised. I think you'll like what you see. Our Patreons are Models, Pretty Chill, Fothor Newman, Inc., No Flex, Mandatory Burnout, Matt Conduit 23, Josh Apodaca, Rob Silverman, Matt H., Rob Rivern, Abigail Gieslin, Direwolf, and of course, the homie. See you tomorrow for another Snap Take. Peace.